Chaotic scenes coming out of Kabul a week after the Taliban takeover. Desperation is rising on the ground as thousands try and flee the country. And firefight broke out Monday morning when a sniper started shooting at Afghan security forces helping secure the base, killing one of them. Holiday shopping in August. There are calls to start holiday shopping early this year due to the shipping crisis. The shortage of products amid the pandemic is leading to fewer choices and a higher cost. And the first full approval of a COVID-19 shot. The FDA is giving Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine the green light. The agency fully approved it Monday for use in people over the age of 16. This comes amid debate around booster shots. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. I hope everyone had a good week. Lots happening, so let's dive right in. Chaos in Kabul a week after the Taliban takeover. Firefight broke out Monday morning when a sniper started shooting at Afghan security forces, helping to secure the base, killing one of them. But the city's airport is one of the few escape routes out of the country. More than 20,000 people are there waiting in the blistering heat for the chance at a flight out. The ones who make it through the gates are exhausted and scared, but they are the lucky ones. They've made it past the Taliban checkpoints and security guards. Not everyone is so lucky. With the Taliban in control, it's still far from certain U.S. citizens, Afghan translators, and others who worked with U.S. forces will be able to get out.
If we're leaving by the 31st, we will not get out all of the Americans we need to. And we absolutely won't get out all of our allies who've served with us for 20 years.
President Biden saying on Sunday the chaos was inevitable.
It would have been true if we had started a month ago or a month from now. There is no way to evacuate this many people without pain and loss of heartbreaking images you see on television.
Biden says the first priority is getting U.S. citizens out. He says he directed the State Department to reach out to the remaining Americans.
Any American who wants to get home will get home. We're executing a plan to move groups of these Americans to safety and to safely and effectively move them to the airport compound.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says they are working with several thousand Americans right now, but there is one challenge.
That we ask Americans when they come to Afghanistan to register with the embassy. Many come and do that, but then they leave and never deregister. Many others come and don't register at all. That is their right. And it's our responsibility to get them out.
The Associated Press reports that over the weekend, several people were crushed to death in the crowd at the airport. Even so, those who are there are considered lucky. Not everyone can make it to Kabul. The Defense Secretary said Sunday that Americans trapped in Kabul are having tough encounters with the Taliban. Biden says there are discussions about extending the August 31st deadline, and two U.S. defense officials said the U.S. military is establishing alternative routes to the Kabul airport because of a threat from a self-proclaimed branch of ISIS and possibly other groups. G7 leaders are scheduled to hold a virtual meeting Tuesday to talk about the situation. Another concern there is the economy. Afghanistan's economy was already struggling before the Taliban ousted the U.S.-backed government. And it's not likely to improve, especially on basic necessities such as food. The World Food Program estimates some 14 million Afghans already are food insecure. Andrew Patterson, Deputy Director for the World Food Program, on what he's seeing from Afghanistan.
Conflict to go away because we need to get out to those 14 million people or even up to 20 million people that are food insecure in Afghanistan. WFP's been here since 1963. We've operated through various regimes, including a previous Taliban regime. We're used to having to deal with access right around the world. Wherever we're in a conflict zone, we have to deal with local actors to make sure that our people can get through safely. We have established communications locally with the Taliban, and we also have communications established with their hierarchy through the NGO Commission. It's a daily business for WFP and the humanitarian community at large.
And according to the World Bank, international aid accounted for around 43% of Afghanistan's GDP in 2020. But that could change. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, is withholding more than $450 million it was supposed to send to Afghanistan as part of its COVID relief program. And the U.S. has frozen about $9 billion in international reserves held by Afghanistan's central bank. It's also blocked bulk shipments of dollars to the country as the government collapsed recently. The former central bank governor said last week the Taliban can access just 0.1% of Afghanistan's reserves. He predicts that'll lead to more poverty as a result of more capital controls, depreciation of the currency, and higher inflation. Now, speaking of inflation, there's also another concern: shipping. There are calls to start holiday shopping early in the U.S. this year due to the shipping crisis. The disruption to the global supply chain since the start of the pandemic has spurred a shortage of products. This means fewer choices and a higher cost. The latest issue, a China terminal shut down because of positive virus cases, causing bottlenecks and delays for other shipping lines. There is also a truck driver shortage in the U.S. and the United Kingdom. As a result, air terminals are also receiving excessive freight. U.S. airports like Chicago have delays up to 2 weeks to collect that cargo. CEO of Adidas already saying they won't be able to meet the strong demand the second half of this year. Some companies are moving productions to other areas but are still seeing delays. And now, before we get into the FDA's full approval for Pfizer, let's do some quick updates. Monday is New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's official last day in office. His resignation takes effect at 11:59 p.m. At midnight Tuesday, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is set to be sworn in. Cuomo announced his resignation 2 weeks ago. He was facing impeachment after the state attorney general released a report, finding he had sexually harassed 11 women. Cuomo has denied all of the allegations, saying he never touched anyone inappropriately, but acknowledged that some of his behavior made others uncomfortable. He also came under fire for the nursing home scandals, accusations of mishandling the state's response to the pandemic, namely that his administration concealed thousands of COVID-19 deaths among nursing home patients. That's in stark contrast to last year, when Cuomo was praised for how he handled the pandemic. His daily press briefings won him an International Emmy Award. And on Capitol Hill, the House returns from recess. Divisions among the Democratic Party could come to a head as lawmakers take on infrastructure. One of their first acts of business this week could be a vote on a budget resolution for the president's spending package. That could happen as soon as Tuesday. The sweeping legislative package would pass under a budget process called reconciliation. It would not be subject to the Senate filibuster's 60-vote threshold. But a group of 9 moderate House Democrats are holding that up. They want to first pass a separate $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal that the Senate already passed. Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the White House has already expressed interest in passing the 2 bills at the same time. Now that the updates are out of the way, let's turn to the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA is giving Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine the green light. The agency fully approved it Monday for use in people over the age of 16. It marks the first full approval of a COVID-19 shot. Pfizer's vaccine was previously available in the U.S. under emergency use authorization. Public health officials hope the seal of approval will convince more unvaccinated Americans that Pfizer's shot is safe and effective. That's amid reports of vaccine hesitancy among some Americans. Experts say full approval could also open the door to more vaccine mandates. The full FDA approval has only been granted for those 16 and older. Those who are 12 through 15 can still get the vaccine under the emergency authorization. Roughly 51% of Americans have been fully vaccinated so far. Pfizer's vaccine is the most commonly used in the U.S. Out of around 170 million people who have been fully vaccinated, more than 92 million got Pfizer shots. And this comes as top health experts last week announced starting on September 20th, Americans can get a third booster shot 8 months after their second dose of either Pfizer or Moderna. There's still debate on whether or not the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will need a booster. But it's been seeing pushback. Physician and scientist Eric Topol tweeted out 8 months is too long. He notes vulnerability can return as soon as 5 months or 6 months after the second dose. The WHO also weighed in, saying the U.S. should hold back on booster shots until more of the global community gets their first shot. Another issue that many have been raising is Israel. The country is one of the world's most vaccinated societies, but it's now seeing one of the highest infection rates, which is raising questions about the vaccine's longevity. The New York Times reports that a fourth COVID wave is rapidly approaching the levels of Israel's worst days last winter. The daily rate of confirmed new cases has more than doubled in the past 2 weeks. Some experts tell the New York Times that Israel's high rate of infections among early vaccine recipients may indicate a waning of the vaccine's protections. Now, let's go back to the FDA. Many people have turned to home remedies to fight the virus, to the point that the agency recently released this tweet saying, "You are not a horse, you are not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it." The FDA imploring people to stop self-medicating against COVID-19 with a drug called Ivermectin. Ivermectin is typically given to livestock for deworming purposes. But enough people have been taking it recently that the FDA and Mississippi state epidemiologists have issued warnings. The agency notes ivermectin is not an antiviral or a drug for treating viruses. The FDA goes on to note there are dangerous side effects to taking the drug, which can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, hypotension, which is low blood pressure, allergic reactions like itching and hives, dizziness, ataxia, which is problems with balance, seizures, coma, and even death. And now, before we end with the FDA's full approval for Pfizer's vaccine and calls for booster shots, work from home is coming to an end for many Americans. But for their pandemic pets, they'll be home alone for the first time. One area seeing massive growth is pet sitting companies. As pet parents leave home, so too is demand for pet adoptions.
The pandemic really opened the doors for people to try out adopting and fostering that I always wanted to try it.
Well, the Delta variant is placing many return to office plans on hold. For some workers like Genesis Torres, remote work is over. It means her pandemic pet Benji will stay home alone for the first time.
He usually gets really nervous, starts crying or whining.
That's why Torres turned to a professional dog trainer to address Benji's separation anxiety. According to Veterinary Centers of America, or VCA, separation anxiety means the pet experiences a feeling of anxiety or even panic when they are separated from preferred people. It can lead to the pets acting out.
I just think it made me very anxious. I was concerned about if he would tear things up in the home, if I would get neighbors complaining about the noise level.
And in a Washington, D.C. park, Scott Dancer, or the dog wizard, can be found. His employees train people and their pets to face behavioral problems.
Separation anxiety is a buildup of mental energy in the dog's head.
Dancer says when you walk out the door, your dog's stress can manifest into noise and destruction.
They're just pack animals naturally, so they want to be with their pack and they get their confidence from the pack.
Dancer says there are 3 steps you can take at home to help them get ready for your return to office. Before work, wear them out mentally with a structured walk full of commands. Build their self-confidence. Dancer suggests to command them to sit and walk away slowly and repeat often so they learn.
Down, they don't have to be attached to you the whole time. They can be on this bench, mom can be over there, and nothing bad's happening to them.
And to not underestimate socialization.
Sometimes just exposing them to more confident dogs in a social situation like at your dog park or at the daycare, that confidence is going to rub off on one another.
He warns on your own these techniques will take time and may not be a fix-all. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.